one's for the birds, this one's for the city. This one for the fans that bleed green with me. Push down the 95 to the right is the link. With the team pulling up, knowing that they getting beat. Exit Broad Street, right on Patterson. Xfinity Live, CPP, what's happening? Dub F Lie, stop by F1. Fly, Eagles fly, you hear the song getting sung? What team in the league is number one? Bird gang, yeah, I said it twice. You heard me say it once, now you sure you heard it right. No lies being told, yeah, it's all facts. It ain't me, Grin or Kelly, we don't rock with that. Any given Sunday, we don't ever slack. Yeah, we got an SP, time to run it back. And even on the road, yeah, we taking over. All you see is green like you at the Nova. Care less about the squad, bro, it's only us. A cheesesteak tailgate, yeah, we good, bruh. Beer pong baptism, you already know. Con shot, tomato pie, bring 3 or 4. After every bird gang, you know where to be. 4th of Jawn, NBC, in the heart of Philly. About the birds, all about the birds. E-Rock, yeah, find us Hollywood Heard. Look up.
Welcome to 4th and Jawn, episode 104. I am Gail Saunders, a.k.a. Eagle Sessions on Twitter. Tonight we are E-Rock-less, but we are going to rock out with our knowledge out in honor of our man E tonight. But let's start with Thursday, man. I mean, it was a
big win.
Tremendous
Huge.
win.
Season's alive.
Back up against the wall. It was kind of a must-win situation for the Eagles.
Sure.
Doug Peterson, tremendous job getting these guys ready on a short week. Doug Peterson is 5-0 on Thursday nights. But, we're a quarter way, through the regular season. I mean, what have we learned about this football team? I mean, we've learned that this team has a lot of fight in them. We've learned that, with the adversity, with all the injuries, this team still has some dog in them.
Yeah.
Break out the dog mask, folks. But, the one thing we've also learned is this Eagles football team hasn't played their best football yet. Let me repeat that. This Eagles team has not played their best football yet. And it could be really scary. I mean, thinking about these stats right here. The Eagles are the best in the NFL on the money down, which is third down. I mean, that's where you make your money. Shout out to Carson Wentz, the Ginger Jesus. We've also been phenomenal in the red zone. I mean, 5 scores from the red zone. I mean, Dougie P was in his bag on Thursday, it's crazy to see them, with those kind of stats. I mean, it kind of resembles that Super Bowl run. That's where we were money on third down, money in the red zone. I mean, it's scary. So hats off to the Eagles. I mean, they got this win, brought it back to Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
You couldn't have done any better. But for a man who's one of the hardest working men in Philadelphia, to my left,
that's a myth.
Eitan Shander.
Smoking mirrors.
97.3. Mays in the Eitan Show. How you doing today, man? How you feeling about this big W?
Well, I'm feeling as good about the season as I am just honored to be here and to see what you guys have built and continue to build. Listen, man, if you're going to try to, hardest working man, all this, I got to give you guys all the props as well.
Stop,
listen, I've just been doing it I show up.
This dude's everywhere.
That's it. It's just like, hey, man, can you do this? Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do it. But it's really cool, being on with you guys in the past and seeing how much you've built this and seeing how much of an institution 4th and Jawn has become. And I say that, like, realistically. I mean, from the tailgate to the show to the presence, this is something that, it gets referenced if it's a Deadspin article, wherever it may be, right? You guys are now known throughout the country, rightfully so, because I don't know of a better opportunity to represent fandom, knowledge, passion, all in one. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's tough. It's tough to ride that line. Like, I could sit back at times on the radio and be like, well, I'm just trying to be objective. It's hard for me to be objective about anything in life. But, you can do that. And I think what you guys do a really great job of is balancing being honest as a fan, but also looking at what, applying numbers, applying if it's analytics or if it's just eye test, applying trends, applying things that we do as, people that watch the game so intently. I'm thrilled. But as you say about the
appreciate
season,
the kind words.
Hey, you write my bio any day.
Listen, man, no, I can't write. I can just talk. So my grammar is off. As far as the season is concerned, I'll just echo what you said, which is back to the wall. There's a must-win game this early in the season, only in the sense of the schedule in front of you. Like, yeah, you have the Jets, and I know we're going to get to them coming up. But even Minnesota, which looked like a dog in Chicago. That's a tough out in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You just don't want to put yourself in the position where it's like, okay, you went from your back on the wall to like your back like has been thrown in the wall. And now there's like an indention in the wall with like your back. You don't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation. How are you feeling about the game, though?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good because
I mean, you were pissed off last week.
yeah, I was a little
had a lot
pissed
to
off
say.
because, well, dude, you got to listen. Well, we did get listened to. Let's put it that way. We called at 4th and Jawn for more running, and that's exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, I have a stat for you boys.
Oh.
Did you know this past game we had more rushing yards than passing yards? And the last time that's happened is all the way back November 19, 2017, in the infamous 37-9 Cowboys win. When we beat it. And Jay Ajayi went off for 91 yards. Blunt had 57. And our boy that's coming back this week, Corey Clement, had 50 yards. So I think the well-balanced run game, and just the fact of we didn't have just one of our guys pop off this week. It's not like Jordan Howard was the only guy that popped off. Miles Sanders had some really good runs. And to have our offensive line standing up and playing the way that they did. Dude, did you see the video of Jason Peters tossing that safety like a rag doll?
Oh, I mean, he looked
My
like
man still got it.
he looked like E Honda in Street Fighter. He just put the one hand up, the safety just went flying.
Yeah.
But he was not about that blitz.
Did you just date yourself with the E Honda
Oh,
reference?
yes.
Right over my head.
E Honda.
Oh, man.
You don't know E Honda?
Big hand E Honda.
Trox Prime, you know E Honda?
Street Fighter? Is that Street Fighter 2 though?
Millennials.
Yeah.
Listen, man.
Millennials.
I'm just saying. You're right though. It was like something out of a video game, out of a cartoon. I was just watching the thing over and over and over.
I had. I'm not going to lie. Touching off my feelings of last week, I was nervous last week going into this game, and I was nervous after the first drive. Aaron Rodgers, man, just coming down, and he was just picking us clean in the first quarter. But like the defense was able to turn it around. I don't know what it is about this team where like I feel like this team embodies like Muhammad Ali, where they love just backing themselves in the corner and then just letting the guys swing on them, and then we like to work our ways out of the corner and just dig ourselves out of that hole.
And a rope-a-dope works in boxing. I can't live as a fan with the rope-a-dope.
It's too much.
Yeah, but I think the common denominator of that game was the run game. I think you really, like last week I said, the way to solidify this game plan is really getting behind the run. I think the offensive linemen and the running backs got together. And Brandon Brooks kind of alluded to being on the same page. But we asked for more Jordan Howard. We asked for more screens. We got both of them.
Yeah.
And the way that they utilize Jordan Howard, it's kind of funny because this fan base is they're so smart. You know, we've been asking for Jordan Howard.
Right.
Like you listen to Sports Talk Radio, everyone's asking for Jordan Howard.
Twitter, I mean, it's not just
everywhere.
But
you know,
didn't it remind you of 2 years ago when it was like run the ball, Howie? Remember when LeGarrette Blount was left out of that one game? It was week 2 against Kansas City, right?
Kansas
and everybody's like, why the hell you bring LeGarrette Blount in if you're not going to run him? I felt like it was the same scenario where we saw a guy in Jordan Howard that all of us collectively were like from the outside.
Why wouldn't you be using him? He's a guy that's in his prime. He's a younger guy. And you could beat the brakes off him since like everybody all has the notion in their head that this is probably going to be his only year as an Eagle.
Hey,
why would you not run him into the ground?
Worked for a Giant.
Yeah. I mean, the way they utilize him was perfect. I mean, ground and pound. You know, he just keeps moving forward, and they used him in the pass game as well. But on the day, he had rushed 15 times, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry.
That's amazing.
Miles Sanders, 72 yards, totaled 72 yards on 11 carries, 6.5 yards per carry. I mean, busted off a 30-yard run, but you saw that, the semblance of thunder and lightning. I mean, that's got to get you guys excited.
It does, and I'll say this. It's almost like it's exciting to the point of where now the bar has been raised. And I don't even say this from a Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders standpoint, but my trust in Brandon Brooks leads the way just because of what he's come back from and the fact that he's one of the best guards in the NFL right now. Mike, that's an entire episode right there just off Brandon Brooks.
Guard right now
It's
in
insane.
the NFL.
It's insane.
Was it 8 months or so?
He's one of the top-ranked guards.
So my trust now is that I should be, if I'm a head coach / offensive coordinator, I should be able to rely on that offensive line every single week to where I can run whoever is in the backfield. If it's Corey, if it's Darren, if it's Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, it doesn't matter because of what they show that they can do right now as a unit. Like, that doesn't go away. They don't become this great unit over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then a month from now, we'll all be on Twitter like, hey, what happened to that great unit? If they're playing together and they're healthy, it's only going to get better.
And Deuce Staley talked about, people have been talking about, I want Jordan Howard, I want Miles Sanders. But Deuce Staley talked about the three-headed monster. When was the last time you heard that? Three-headed monster. But
Last time I heard that, I didn't want to hear it.
You have guys with different skill sets. Old man Sproles still got it in the past game. I think he still can give you something. But I think
it's a four-headed monster, right?
Oh, with
well,
Clement.
now with Clement.
Yeah, right. I mean, technically, wasn't it a four-headed monster? To a lesser extent, I guess three-headed monster when they won the Super Bowl.
Smallwood, Clement,
Yeah.
Blunt, Ajayi.
Well, right, Smallwood to that lesser extent. As much as we want to forget the Smallwood era,
Shout
he
out
was
to
there.
Smallwood,
he
a.k.a.
won a
Old
ring.
Navy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's right. So now it becomes a four-head. They're going to use Corey Clement in the game.
Yeah.
So it's not like because he's healthy, it's not like he's not going to dress. So they're going to use 4 running backs now.
Yeah.
Do you think he slides back into the kick returns, or do you think they'll let Miles Sanders ride that out, considering how he's been playing?
They seem to really like Miles Sanders.
You could split some time there, but I really think that kick return in the game really gave this team some juice.
Yep.
What I mean? When they needed it, it was like the perfect the medicine for that moment.
It's kind of a good luxury to have a bunch of different guys that can do that. And for whatever, and I shouldn't say for whatever reason, you could see it. But, yeah, they really like Miles Sanders doing a bunch of different things. And if it's a big play, where remember Darren Sproles a couple of years back when nothing was working for like year 2 at Chip, you would have a big play from Sproles, and it wouldn't be like even so much a running play. It could be a special teams play, whatever. If Sanders can be the difference in a game in which you're playing a better opponent, Dallas down the road, Chicago, and now you're locked into, a 10-7 game, and Sanders can break something because you've been using him throughout the year in these situations, and I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, and to go back to this Green Bay game just really quickly, I think that we're not talking about enough. The fact that we were able to start on the opponent's side of the field, and we're playing with a short field, ended up being a huge part of that game.
Because of what happened?
Because we did the right thing. We were able to run downhill.
Derek Barnett came up with a big play. Shout out to E-Rock. He put the boo in the chamber for Derek Barnett, coming up with the strip sack. You know what I mean?
You can uncock that boo.
It was like a reverse of what it was the reverse of Brandon
Super
Graham.
Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
But, he came up with a big play, but I felt like the way that the offense was moving, and just generating points is a good thing.
When you throw for 3 TDs, win a football game, and don't throw for over 200 yards and no interceptions,
It's a well-balanced game.
you're getting a lot of help, but you're also taking advantage of every single opportunity. And you're right, it's a well-balanced game. And that's like the perfect scenario. I know the defense is a completely different conversation because they're banged up. But from an offensive standpoint, like the one thing I would love to continue and copy and paste is just – even, taking advantage of every opportunity you get. If it's defense, if it's special teams, if it's a mistake that the defense makes that you're playing against, anything, the Eagles were perfect in that regard.
The thing I like about the run game, it protects Carson Wentz. If you want to keep Carson Wentz upright, you protect the man. The guy didn't get sacked all game.
Yeah.
He got maybe a couple QB hits, but other than that, he probably felt really good after the game. He didn't put up the yards that everyone might want to see, but he was efficient. Earlier in the season, I talked about Carson Wentz. For him to be successful, you don't need him to be super MVP. Like, you need to have him manage the game, take the plays that are there, and keep the chains moving. I talked about, Alpha Jeffrey being back.
Yes.
Alpha Jeffrey, like that guy, his presence alone
man.
means something to this wide receiver group. A guy, Jair Alexander, who's been a phenomenal young cornerback in this league. He used his big body, moved him out the way. Alpha Jeffrey's here, touchdown. I just think having him on the roster is just amazing for Carson Wentz. And he doesn't have Deshaun Jackson back yet.
No, I know.
But when they get back together, that's a tag team I want to see.
Yeah, man. It's seriously like to add the element of Deshaun, and that goes back to where you began, where we only got a glimpse of what this offense can be, and that was against Washington because everything else, guys go down, they get hurt, and we haven't really seen everybody together. But it's amazing from a trust/execution standpoint how much of a calming effect Alshon can have. I know it's not just me, but you're watching that game, and At no point was there like, oh my, they need to move the chains, 2nd and long, 3rd and 8, something like that. Who are they going to throw to? Who are they going to throw to? You knew they had Zach Ertz like they've been had Zach Ertz, but the problem is the guys around him at the time were dropping footballs consistently. When you have Alshon Jeffrey, it's like this aura, this calming effect.
I think that relationship, seeing where Carson is, the ball placement, where he's putting the balls on a back shoulder fade, that kind of relationship is built. It's not built overnight, but like you think Jawn being out there the last couple weeks, being out of place, the timing of the routes off. You see the beauty of that relationship that they've built over the last 2 years. I think as they continue to grow, I think it's going to be amazing with Djax on the other side. You
think about that. To your point about the relationship, the trust, right, that Carson and Alshon have. You also have to factor in that Alshon does something better than most, if not any, wide receiver, which is like this catch radius that everybody talks about, right? So not only do you have a built-in trust where you can throw to a target, necessarily not throw to him on timing routes, but you also know that, and this adds to your trust, right? Because if you know that you can throw the ball, and even if you're off, that ball could be at 98%, that ball could be at 89%. But you know what? He's going to catch it.
Yeah.
You have that feel. I'm telling you, man, that as opposed to the opposite where you might be like, oh, let me hold my breath and throw that ball to Aguilar.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing last week I talked about was having that, the semblance of the 12 personnel. Like, we could start running plays that we really want to run. People were really frantic that Falcons game. We were like, what is going on? Dallas Goedert was hurt. Djax was hurt and Alshon was hurt. That's a 40% of your playbook out the door right before the game started. It wasn't like you knew it was coming in, prior to the game. It just happened. But seeing the ability of Dallas Goedert and how they use them, he's a godsend, no pun intended, but Goedert is a godsend for this 12 personnel.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the 12 personnel is how it affects nickel defense. And if they want to run nickel, you want to run dime, and you want to have your cornerbacks get hit by offensive linemen, or we'll bring in an extra tackle or big V or whatever. We can do so much out of the run game and the pass game with Goddard doing these silly, these little motions, the wham play. Whether it's incredible. Like I get goosebumps thinking about the opportunities down the road.
Having this diversity that we got on our offense it really is like when we got two really NFL eligible, like really good high-tier tight ends like we got in Goddard and Ertz, being able to run that 12 personnel, having two running backs with like different skill sets where you got Miles Sanders who's able to bounce the ball outside, he's able to catch the ball, you got Jordan Howard's able to take it inside. There's so many, and then with Deshaun coming back, like the different tiers and layers that we got to this offense and the different options we have to make plays, that is really what's key. And when we lose players, like to the soft tissue injuries, like when we lost Goddard into the Falcons, and when we lost Deshaun, I could see how that totally blows up their playbook. But when we do have that full playbook, we can go any which direction we want to go.
I mean, think about the plays that were that were big,
right?
That Goddard was a part of. Like he on that wham play that got Miles Sanders that broke loose on that play. That was him coming down, chipping on like was a D tackle or something like that. I know Stoutland was talking about Goddard's ability in his angles that he takes, his pursuit angles on these these blocks. He's like for a young guy, this guy's pretty amazing.
One thing that I can't wait to see, and it's going to take form this year, but I think next year is the year that we'll see it. And maybe we won't get a full season of it because defenses catch up quick to this. But the 12 personnel in the red zone now makes Dallas Goedert, by default, that guy that teams are going to lose track of first.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to lose track of Alshon.
Or Ertz.
And I was going to go down the list. Deshaun even, like as quick as he may be, he may not even be on the field depending on, what you're looking at different. But Dallas Goedert is so crisp at his route running. You can play off of like a delayed route knowing that how good of a blocker he is. He's going to sell that because he can be on the line for 2 to 3 seconds. And defenses are going to be so keyed on Zach Ertz. I'm telling you, man, next year, if they're all healthy and you get 14, 15 weeks of this, he's a double-digit touchdown scorer.
Yeah.
More than Ertz, only because of how it's going to take time for defense to be like, wait a second, this guy keeps killing us. Like, look at the film from the last 4 weeks, whoever they go up against, like week 6 next year, they'll be looking at Goddard. Like, how is this guy continuing to kill defenses? And you'll see.
He's the one that's forgotten about.
Because of instinct will tell you, you watch film on Ertz all week, instinct will tell you, oh, wait, I see this guy Zach Ertz crossing, I got to go with him, even though you know Goddard. It'll take a year to catch up, but watch.
The screenplay was pretty phenomenal.
It was really good. Yeah. And isn't it crazy to think in 12 personnel that someone like Dallas Goedert could be the fourth option when we got
I'm telling you, bro.
That is insane.
That's what he's going to slip through the cracks until somebody picks up on that. But even still, like, it's not easy to guard two tight ends in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, there's a stat with him on the field during the run game. The Eagles average 5.26 yards per carry. When he's off the field, they average 4.02 yards per carry.
Yeah, so over a yard they're getting.
I mean, he's a difference maker, and he's one of the guys that, like, I remember, like when the draft season when I was like, yo, the first guy through in the DMs, I was like, Dallas Goedert is the guy. Like, he's one of the guys. If he's in range, and where we got him, it's insane.
Yeah, you know? It's like a back end first round pick at that point.
Yeah, I mean, but one thing that was inspiring was the play of the defensive team after Avante, Lil Tay-Tay. Yeah. Lil Tay-Tay got hurt, man. He's a fan favorite, and he's a
absolutely, man.
He's a team favorite. What is he?
Glad to hear he's all right.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
But you saw that. I mean, I still go back to that one shot of the Eagles fans in the crowd, and they were holding their hands over their mouth, and it was like every Eagles fan in this city. Wherever you were watching that game, no matter where we were all like that, and I think that's part of it. Like, first off, anybody who wears the uniform, it doesn't matter. You go through something like that, the entire city is going to be behind you. But to your point about who the player was, and again, we know based off of these little stories that come out about personalities and how much everybody loves him, and it was a tough moment, you know, because there's nothing you can do to legislate that out of the game.
Yeah.
Like, there's no Roger Goodell summit that needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's two guys going for the same guy.
Especially when it's your own player.
That's my point.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not a Derek Barnett hit on Jamal Adams. Yeah. This is not Vontaze Perfect on Jack Doyle. Right. This is something that it's just, I don't know. You cannot legislate
fire,
that out.
it happens.
It's tough. It's tough.
And Sendeo, he hits pretty hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Too bad he hit his own player.
Yeah.
Hardest hit of the game for
him. I know fans on the timeline were really upset.
Those people, man. He did make a big play, though, remember?
He did.
Right?
He did.
And it's funny because you could see the retweet posse was out, right? Because initially everybody was trying to kill Sendejo because of what he did to Maddox.
Yeah.
And then when he made the play, the retweet posse was out.
Yeah.
And it was just like retweeting all the takes on it, being like,
get
Sendejo out of here.
They were like, cut him. Let's get the comp pick.
Right.
Cut him right after the hit. I was like, come on. You guys.
That's only hurting our depth more.
Sendejo has been a quality safety.
Yeah, he's not been bad, man.
He's been quality for depth.
Where did he get this initial bad rep? Like, what's the ground zero from this? Do we know?
I don't know.
Because
he does have a sack. He's got one of the only sacks for the Eagles team.
Yeah, but this isn't from this year. I feel like it's carried over.
Probably from the NFC Championship.
Was that it?
He's a Viking. He was an ex-Viking.
Okay.
You know?
But I feel like
I don't think that could be it.
Yeah, that really is.
I don't know where it comes from.
But
I mean, when you got Corey Graham, who
shouldn't we know the origins of somebody that really up until that play in Thursday, like, has been routinely vilified? Like, people couldn't wait to get on Sendejo for that hit on Maddox, man.
I think it's simply because it's comparatively to the other safeties that we have, it's a step down.
He's not Brian Dawkins.
He's not Brian Dawkins. He's not Malcolm Jenkins. He's not Rodney McLeod.
But for your third safety, he's done fairly.
Yeah, but people are acting like exactly. I get what you're saying. It's just crazy that it went that far that fast.
Yeah.
But I mean, talking about this,
we're an emotional group.
We are a little. That's kind of our brand.
I understand. You know? I understand. I'm just trying to get the origins of it.
I mean, but thinking about this Eagles secondary,
it's non-existent.
We're dealt with another injury with Lil Tay-Tay, Avante Maddox, the next spring. We have Sidney Jones, another hamstring. Jalen Mills still MIA with the foot.
Yep.
Ronald Darby with the hamstring. Crayvon LeBlanc won't be back. For a while,
yeah,
he's
IR,
he's got a foot. So it's the foot and the hamstring is a really popular injury with this cornerback group. I mean,
what's up with Sidney Jones, man? Like,
are you
at what? Listen,
there's a tone in your voice that you're not hashtag Sidney Jones season.
I'm not hashtagging Sidney Jones season, but I'm not also hashtag dump Sidney. Like, I'm not out on
hashtag. You need.
I'm
to stretch,
hashtag.
Bro.
What's up with Sidney?
Yeah.
What's up with
WTH? Like, what the heck's going on here? Like, I need to understand why this is a routinely an issue here with Sidney Jones.
Yeah.
And I feel like with him, and here's the thing, Deshaun Jackson, I can stomach him being out for 4 or 5 weeks, because I know when that man comes back on the field, he's going to take 2 or 3 people downfield. When's the last time Sidney Jones ran with somebody downfield? Healthy.
I was watching the.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting.
I was watching the next gen video stats or whatever. They showed like a video. They said that he ran pretty like 21 miles per hour, but you could see where the dot is on the line, and you could see exactly where the hamstring he pulled because it like slowed up. It was pretty.
So he was running 21. No wonder why he pulled the hamstring. Running too damn fast.
I was like, that is a weird,
Slow that down.
On the sideline. Right. Slow it down.
You should be at 18 miles per hour cruising, man.
But I thought last week I said that Thursday would be a big game for the Sidney Jones, Russell Douglas brand.
Right.
And Russell has definitely stood out. He's been one of the most consistent cornerbacks on this roster. I really think you have to give a hat tip to him.
Absolutely.
He's just showed up consistently. Came in and came out.
Like what I'm noticing with this Eagles defense is that teams are coming in and they're really targeting one wide receiver and being like, this is the guy that's going to win the game for us. If you look back at each 4 of the games, there's been a 100-yard receiver, and there was a 100-yard receiver in the first half of that Green Bay game. And he possibly, had he not gotten injured, gotten 200 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams is...
he tore us up.
Yeah.
He's a route runner.
And each game you go back to, it was the McLaurin from the Redskins.
Which should never have happened.
Which should have never happened, because who was that guy? You got Julio, makes sense. And it just doesn't make sense to me.
And Marvin Jones, right?
Marvin Jones, correct.
Now, I think to your point, what teams have been able to do is instead of just pinpointing on one cornerback, they realize that there's a lot more. Like, think about it. If you're down guys in that position, there's going to be patches of open space throughout the field, right? Every possession, every snap. And it might be one cornerback, it might be another, but there's a higher propensity for there to be multiple patches. Mm-hmm. So the offenses have been smart. They've been using their guys. Now, you won't see it to a better example than we saw Thursday night just because of how talented that kid is.
Yeah, man.
But even with Julio,
you knew the
Marvin
ball was
Jones, right, they're moving guys around, and it might not even be lining them up different way. It's just getting them the ball in different positions because they know that they have the talent to find that
make guys
spot.
miss,
right.
yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to line them up in the slot or outside. You can move them around once the ball's snapped. It's a problem unless they can bring in Jalen Ramsey or
I mean,
I don't know what else to do.
That would be a perfect scenario, but in terms of like thinking about what Jim, Schwartz had to deal with, you could see that he was, in his bag of tricks, thinking of like what he could possibly do. He had 2 safeties back there. He was
it's hard to blitz Rodgers as well. As much as we asked for Jim Schwartz to blitz more.
And if
he'll carve you up. Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers was killing the Eagles on the blitz.
Yeah.
You can't.
He's notorious for tearing up anybody on the blitz. He gets the ball out so quick.
That was one of the few times I've ever watched a team that I root for in my life and thought to myself, like, removed myself from a second or two on it always on a replay, right? Because you can never do this live. And just be like, my goodness, what did this guy just do? Like, it happens in the NBA a lot, right? You're going up against LeBron. You're going up against Russell Westbrook. Maybe James Harden comes to town. Every now and again, you're like, how did that person just do this?
Yeah.
You're watching Aaron Rodgers, and at some point, I'm just sitting there like, how did he make that throw? It's just impossible.
Yeah.
This has got to be one of the most talented quarterbacks, right, we've ever seen all of us play the game. So I don't really take as much away from a negative Thursday night.
Because that's Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, listen, if Luke Falk goes for 250, we got a problem, okay?
Yeah.
Now, last week we talked about is Aaron Rodgers the same quarterback? We called him the Olivia Munn Aaron Rodgers or the Danica Patrick.
Well, he's living the Danica life now, right?
Yeah. So which version is he? Is he still the same Aaron Rodgers?
I think either way, no matter who he's dating, he's a difficult guy to deal with, right? Like that's the bottom line. Is either way, Aaron Rodgers is not like the most easy guy to get along with.
Yeah.
It's like preseason, and there were rumors about LaFleur and Rodgers.
But it does seem weird. I mean, like that. I don't know if the relationship is, how well it's developed yet. Because you're looking at Aaron Rodgers.
About him and Danica still.
We're on to LaFleur. Okay?
Oh, I thought you were still talking about Danica and Munn too.
You don't care about the race car. You don't care about Danica.
Well, to be fair though, Danica does seem like more
grounded.
Yeah, and
Maybe
happy. Like this whole thing. Remember, I didn't find out that Aaron Rodgers was the estranged member of his family until the Olivia Munn relationship.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing came out when he was dating with Munn. So maybe Munn got in his brain.
So he's not. You're saying he is still the same quarterback?
No, I think that he is. I think
You're
due
stuttering.
to circumstance with Danica Patrick and a new head coach in Matt LaFleur, he's now a new quarterback with a new look on life. All right.
Okay.
He's reborn in the sense of appreciation. He's like Ben Simmons.
But how
He
is-
Do you
found a
think
love for
Danica
the
Patrick
game.
drives to the stadium?
Is she like doing donuts in the parking lot? See you, Aaron. Got your lunch for you. But I mean,
What lunch? What does she bring?
I don't.
Chicken
probably,
salad, tuna, egg salad,
Probably hummus.
hummus.
Seems like a hummus.
Aaron Rodgers, you're in Wisconsin.
Cheese.
You get your car keyed. You eat hummus up in Green Bay. Come on, man.
I mean, but the weirdest thing about it, like when you as an Eagle fan sitting there watching Aaron Rodgers down by the goal line,
Yeah.
with we stopped
With
them
this
once.
defense too, right?
And not to mention
Two times.
Well, what was the first one with no runs whatsoever? You're down on the goal line. I got Aaron Rodgers, but you're also down on the goal line.
Made no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. You got to pound it at least two times.
They do not trust the run game against this Eagles team. I mean, the Eagles team, like
don't you at least? I get it.
You
but
try-
don't
you
you
try.
at least have to try, or
Well-
like a
well,
sneak, or
Jamal Williams was out.
right? I don't know.
You
Yes.
know, Aaron Jones was there. One of their. Aaron Jones isn't a grinder, but the Eagles have done a good job against the run. People have been like,
Nobody's been able to run against them.
No, I mean the leading rusher against the Eagles right now after 4 weeks is Aaron Rodgers. Darius Geis, Kerryon Johnson, a guy who had 20 carries for 36 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. Devonta Freeman. No one's run on the Eagles, and I mean they can throw on the Eagles
Right.
all day, but I think it's that was in the back of their minds.
Well, doesn't that? And I hate to use the word frustrate you, but I guess it kind of brings us into this predicament moving forward, which is, if it's Le'Veon Bell, if it's Dalvin Cook, if it's Ezekiel Elliott, the table has already been set. It's going to be really difficult for anybody to run against this team, which is it's not automatic, but it's going to make it easier than a regular average team to make their opponent one-dimensional, right?
Right.
But then it leads into the frustrating element of what do you do with the pressure? Because if you know that a team is going to be if Dak's going to be dropping back, hey, man, if this guy in Minnesota is going to be dropping back 40 times, they need to put Kirk Cousins on his back. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And you don't know, like that's the one thing, health or not, with the corners and safeties, I just don't know if they're going to get pressure on quarterbacks yet. That's my biggest concern. The offense is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, moving forward, like how do we – now, I liked what Jim Schwartz actually
Jim
had.
Johnson,
I almost said
throwback.
Jim Johnson. I almost said Jim Johnson. But Jim Schwartz, he had Rasul playing up.
Yep.
And Rasul Douglas, the guy's 81 percentile in arm length for you draft heads out there. He's got those long arms.
That's an advanced analytics stat right
You
there.
know,
He's
he's got the long arms. You've seen him use them, and you see him how he redirects some wide receivers. I'm all about hands, putting some hands on some of these wide receivers.
You think he could box with that reach?
He could
He
jab.
does have some nice
I'm
arms.
Yeah,
sure,
right?
Sewell got a jab.
I mean,
no?
you talking
I
about
think so.
that level of reach right there? You keep somebody. That's the whole idea of
Yeah.
jabbing, right?
He might not be the twitchiest athlete out there. Like, shout out to Terry McLaurin with the bomb that they threw on him.
Yeah.
But he can put some hands on him.
Yep.
I think the instincts. He's got pretty good ball instincts out there.
I agree, and I think he's been in positions where he's been asked to be physical. He showed up. He can make some tackles, and if the cover game, which he's shown being in the number, being out there as a starter, can be consistent, there's no reason to doubt him. There's no reason to think that he's going to be a liability. But,
Yeah.
At this point, Rasul has played really well, I think, in the positions that he's been in. You go down a list of guys who might be ahead of him on the depth chart, and he's thrown out there. I mean, think about it. It's not fair, I know, because he's technically a rookie, but we're all frustrated with J.J. and that drop. We're all frustrated with Nelson, who was technically a starter at the slot, but thrown up on the depth chart with other guys missing, dropping footballs. We should give credit when somebody on that team does get bumped up the depth chart and is playing well, because we know we're going to kill them when they do the opposite.
Yeah.
I mean, last week I was talking about this Eagles team being motivated, and whether it being the number one guy on this roster or the last man, the 53rd man on the roster. in terms of making big plays, Craig James.
Yeah.
I mean,
Coming up huge.
Everybody knew the play was. Even Malcolm Jenkins told him before the plays, like, you are getting thrown at, and he knew that he was getting thrown at. Everybody knew he was getting thrown at, but
Aaron Rodgers was licking his chops.
Yeah, for him to come up with a big play, these are the kind of underdog plays that have to happen. Whether it be Alex Ellis, your third tight end, come up with a big block on the kick return, or coming down making a block down by the goal line. I think these guys at the back end of the rosters making really quality plays really help the Eagles football team.
It's such a rare thing, right? But it's like that doesn't happen often in other sports. No dude at the end of the bench is going to hit the game-winning shot unless everybody's fouled out.
Yeah.
But you're right. You go back in football because there are moments if it's special teams a lot more than normal plays, where you're going to have a guy who hopefully is coached up, and we have one of the best special teams coaches here in Philadelphia, is coached up to where every moment, like you miss something, you miss a block on a kick return, you miss a block on a kick, something like that, that can be the difference, right? And you go back and look at 4 or 5 big plays, and you think, well, the offense had their big plays, the defense was giving up a lot. Where was the actual difference? The difference could be third-string guy making a block on a kick. Difference can be somebody that you don't normally count on stepping up, knowing that they're going to be in those positions, especially with the injuries.
Right.
I mean, with all the injuries right now, you're going to see guys that you probably haven't thought of. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's going to be out there today this week.
But when you have to go 40 yards instead of 80 yards or 75 yards, that makes all the difference, right?
Yeah.
You're already you're one first down away from field goal range.
Yeah. I mean, think about this team and where they, their identity. Like, this is Eagle team. Do they have to I feel like when their back's up against the wall, that's when they really
show their true colors.
Like, you're like, where was this before? I
think they just get hungrier.
You have to lose a couple games. You have to lose to the Lions.
Yeah, but is there a concern? Not that they're losing interest, but it's like you're in college, right? And you're just sitting there like, I don't care about this test. I don't care. Let me get that academic warning, and then I'll show up and start getting A's.
Yeah,
they remind me of myself cramming for tests, studying for the last minute.
You're cramming for 15 hours, getting that paper that you should have written 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Exactly right, and that's the Detroit loss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the Eagles losing to Detroit at home is sleeping through a midterm because you're going to ace the final.
Yeah.
And it infuriates you. And I'm not saying that they went out there not, expecting to lose and all that, but it's like it infuriates you because that's the game where if they win, you're not talking, Gail, about must win, save the season, and all these things back to the wall against Green Bay.
I think we were just on both sides of 2 trap games, to be honest. I think we slept on the Lions, and the Packers slept on us. I think that's what happened. We were going into that Packers game, and we said it after we wrapped up the show last week. We didn't think we were going to win.
What?
Everybody on the timeline was
I thought we were
going to
win.
No,
I thought we were going to win. I thought we had a great opportunity.
This man's a liar. Come
on,
left.
Get out. He's lying. He is lying. I thought they had a chance to win.
Can't you go to the tape?
It was after the show. But
okay. See, that needs to be scoped.
I told I said when we win. He was like, hopefully we win.
I got you. But Gail is big on speaking into existence.
But I felt like they took advantage of where the Packers were weakest at. They were weak against the run.
Yep.
Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders alluded to it. They said we knew they were weak against the run, and we were going to ground and pound.
That's where you have to make it happen.
Yeah, and I get the balance, and I get, hey, you want to see 27-27. I think that's what the balance of plays was, right, on top of the 6 runs for Wentz. But that team in New England wins games sometimes throwing 40 times and running 6 because the team they go up against has nobody that can stop the pass. And then the next week they run the ball with the 3 different running backs they have 40 times because they know nobody can stop the run. If the Eagles are going out there exploiting the weaknesses of defenses week in and week out, and maybe next week we only get 12 carries total, but they're obliterating that Jets secondary, then there's no issue. I don't have that issue as much. I feel like maybe it's coincidence or maybe it does feed into it more often, but when they're not able to exploit that defense, you go back and you look at the lack of balance. But I don't think that it should be something, my point of all of this is that I don't think it should be something that we talk about going into every game. It's almost like reactionary because we have the benefit of it.
Yeah.
And you know what? They do as well. This is only week 5. If they mess something up against the Jets, the good news is they have plenty of opportunity to fix it.
Yeah.
They're not losing that game, but I'm saying, like, something doesn't work.
Speaking into existence.
Listen, man, it's a 14-point spread. You honestly think what's the money line at? Like minus 5,000?
So you put money on. Are you putting money where your mouth is, Eitan?
Do you want me to put $50 on the 5,000 money line just right here on set, just to show you that my money is?
I would feel a lot better.
Do you want me?
Yeah.
Okay, just to show you. I'm going to win like 6 cents for this bet here. All right.
There you go. That's what I like to see. A guy who puts the money where
a man
his
that believes
mouth
what he says.
is.
I mean, do you honestly think that there's any concern at all that the Philadelphia Eagles lose this game? I mean, try speaking that into say that out loud. The Eagles will lose to the Jets.
With a backup QB, I don't see it.
No, wait. Prior to the season, didn't Evan have the Eagles losing to the Jets?
That was before Sam Darnold got mononucleosis.
Right.
And I said, if you listen to
What?
my justification in that episode,
What?
I would say that the Eagles get snuck once a season. And what happened versus the Lions? They got
You
snuck.
said the
I picked the
Jets.
wrong team.
You said
I picked
the
the wrong
Jets.
team.
No, I mean, I think they have a great chance beating the Jets. The Jets are, quarterbackless. I mean,
Yeah.
Luke Falk. I mean, really?
There you have
He
it.
placed the bet.
He placed the bet.
$20 bet, potential winnings, $2.67.
We're all
Don't spend
gonna
it
be
all in
rich.
one spot.
Now, if the Eagles lose this game, I'm coming back. I'm coming back for my 20. All right.
Well, when they win the game, we're
We'll
all
start a GoFundMe.
going to the Sizzler.
That
on
267. You damn
We're going
right.
to buy some butter and some bread.
What can you get for $22.67 at the Sizzler? I can sit one person for
Butter and bread.
for everything.
Maybe
Right.
maybe some hummus.
It's fine with me. Hummus.
But this Jets team, I mean, we're facing Le'Veon Bell. I don't know what's better, his rap album or this is his ability to run on this defense. What do you think? Have you heard the rap?
I heard the rap album. It's crazy.
So far.
What's that?
I think the Eagles are going to be able to shut the run down.
Yeah.
Considering they've been able
Yeah.
to do it so far.
And especially because it's not Sam Darnold.
Right.
Right. Like Luke Falk. Okay, make Luke Falk beat you. Put 10 guys in a box at that point. His rap album is going to be, when it's all said and done, we'll look back on Monday and say his rap album or attempt at that was better than his attempt to run against the Eagles defense. Like, it's not going to be Le'Veon Bell and this offensive line that's going to crack this code of Jim Schwartz in the defense on stopping running backs, right?
No. I mean, I think this is the opportunity to really solidify, put your trademark stamp on. We need to curb stomp a team. And I think the Jets are.
It's been a while since we have.
The
The Broncos game is the last one I could think of.
52, right?
Yeah, yeah.
52-17.
Yeah, that's the last one I could think of.
Yeah, I think so.
And that was a great game because everybody was telling us ahead of time how amazing that Broncos defense was.
Wait
Oh
till
my
the Eagles play the
God.
Broncos. That's the true test.
You're going to get Carson Wentz going to be hassled and harassed all game. You kidding me? Look at that front. What, they have 1 sack? They have less sacks than the Eagles defense this year, I think.
So I mean, if we win big, right? I mean, we're all thinking we're beating Jets, but do you think it's still time for the Eagles to bring in a cornerback by the name of Jalen Ramsey?
Yes.
Is this
100%.
Yes. Well, what are you giving
The
up?
price is going up, though. I mean,
It's a little concerning at this moment. I think the Jaguars are playing chicken with us right
they're
now.
playing hardball. for sure.
two first round. One team has offered 2 first round picks. Back in the day, back a couple weeks, I said I would give up 2 first round picks. You guys laughed at me.
I don't think I would, though. Still, I
No?
don't think I would give
Well,
up 2 first-round picks.
The assumption, though, is that he's coming with a contract. You're not going to trade 2 first-round picks for a rental, right?
Right.
So you trade Jalen Ramsey. He negotiates a long-term deal. I have to be honest. At that point, I'm okay giving up. He's young enough. He's still coming off a rookie deal. 2 first-round picks. I mean, at that point, I'm okay with it. Honestly, he does something where. And again, this is not a typical defense. This is not a typical blitz-heavy defense, come pressure on the linebackers, corners. This is a guy, Jim Schwartz, who's fine, not blitzing a lot. If you're going to be either stubborn or set, and set isn't a negative thing, that can be a positive thing if you know what you're doing, and not blitz and not put on a lot of pressure unless it's Matt Ryan, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey bails you out. That's the get-out-of-jail-free card way more often than not. And you know what? This team right here, the NFC's wide open. Who's the favorite right now?
Yeah.
The Rams just got beat by Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston outdueled Jared Goff in L.A.
Because he wants to eat a W. Jameis Winston. It's crazy. And then Teddy Bridgewater. coming in.
In a complete opposite scenario, where it was a defensive struggle. Right.
You know, we always get happy when the Cowboys lose around here. But, I mean, Twitter questions.
Yes.
You know, Facebook questions. We got questions from everywhere.
We got a couple of them.
And the best question wins the T-shirt tonight, folks. So, I mean, if you guys bring the heat, you get the tees.
All right.
Now, do you have a tee, like, are you wearing the tee that you
Of their
away?
choice. Of their choice.
Okay. I didn't know if you actually dictate tonight, like, which tee they get.
We're men of the people here at 4th and Jawn.
I love it, man.
So Ralph Hernandez Jr. is talking about Duke Riley, and he's talking about how it's most likely he comes in and plays on special teams. Do you think, A, he gets like any defensive looks, and B, would you have rather have brought back Brian Brayman? We got the Brian Brayman hive going right now.
Wow. Now, is this an infamous leader of the Brayman Hive checking in?
It might have been Brian Brayman that sent in this question.
Wow.
No.
Burner account?
I think Duke Riley gives you, you know, he's an athlete. You know, he ran one of the fastest 40 times when he got drafted. He's second fastest 40 time of the linebackers. He was drafted in the 3rd round. I think they thought he would be more of a, you know, what he was. A lot of Falcons fans were disappointed in what he brought to the table. I think in terms of special teams, he can give you some ability there if they're thinking that they could take advantage of his athletic ability in space. But, you know, he's been kind of questionable in coverage. So I think he's just another depth guy on special teams. I mean, they did release L.J. Fort with the signing of Craig James last week. So.
Yeah, we'll see. But, again, I mean, if the guy's getting significant looks out there on defense, something's probably wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, overall, as a big picture. I know we're still dealing with injuries, but this is not like a guy who comes in as a savior.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Skandrick, you know, same feel.
Definitely
right?
depth guys.
Yeah.
At this moment.
So Jim Crester wants to know. He just wants to know, get his mind straight. Who is actually going to be playing cornerback this week? Who's starting?
Orlando Skandrick he's going to be relied on to make some plays for the team. I know he was, you know, he thought he was going to make this roster at the beginning of the season. He's a big friend of Deshaun Jackson's, by the way. Hat tip to D-Jax. We love you. But I think, you know, Roswell Douglas and the Craig James Hive has got to be excited.
Yeah, because you're dealing with the hamstring with Sidney Jones, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
they said he might be able to go, right? Is that? I mean, I don't know, man. We were all praying for.
Man, I don't know what's going on.
The hamstrings over there.
Yeah. SoFlo Birds, he's feeling a little down about the Ramsey trade not happening. He wants to know what other cornerback options are there out there that the Eagles could possibly pursue.
You think talking about Chris Harris, a guy who's 30 years old, but you know he's already voiced to the Broncos that he is counting the days. So obviously,
did you blame him?
I mean, they're in a tough situation. You know, they just lost one of their defensive ends as well. They're one of the young second-year players. But
Chubb's out.
Yeah, he's Chubb. I think he tore his ACL and actually played through it. But Chris Harris, that guy's feisty. You know, he can play man. He can play whatever you want. He can play inside. I think, you know, he's been on Super Bowl winning rosters. For him to play on a Broncos team like he is right now, it's got to be killing him.
Yeah.
It's got to be killing him. But he's a 30-year-old cornerback. It could be a one-year rental, but he does want to get paid as well.
Yeah, so I'm way better with one-year rental in Chris Harris because of the age and the fact that he's not coming off a rookie deal. Jalen Ramsey, you have to re-sign, and that's fine. I'm all for it. If they brought in Chris Harris and I wake up the next day and I get on Twitter or turn on the TV and radio and I hear Eagles have traded for Chris Harris, I'm more than okay with that. Like, I'm fine with that. I can't see a – listen, we do have to, when talking about these hypotheticals, factor into the trust level that we have and the resume and pedigree, if you will, that Howie Roseman's established with these deals. So the likelihood of us waking up the next day and saying, my God, I can't believe Howie Roseman got fleeced for Chris Harris is pretty low.
Yeah.
Like, if they trade for Chris Harris, it's going to be a reasonable deal. It's probably going to be a little bit more belligerent of a move to trade for Jalen Ramsey because, you know, Shad Khan and Jacksonville down there know they've got a big wild card.
Yeah.
But even then, you kind of, like, accept it because it's Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Chris Harris, I feel like, is going to be in some good parameters. I'd take him.
Let's take the name out of it. Let's just say it's any old quarterback. What do you think is the possibility, put a percentage on it, that Howie ends up trading to bring in a defensive back to this team? That, like, a starting caliber, not like a guy that's going to play special teams.
I think you go first.
Wait. Why throw it on me? I want to hear what you have to say. You're the one leading the show here.
I'm passing it off to you, bro.
No, you can't pass the buck. There's no run-pass option here.
Higher or lower than 50%?
50%.
Right
All
on the
right,
middle.
let's start over. What's the actual question, like, verbatim?
So the question is, what if you had to put a percentage on it?
Right.
How high would you say the chances are that Howie Roseman brings in a starting caliber cornerback to this team before the trade deadline?
Okay, so
Higher.
that's the thing that people might get caught up on. There aren't many people that he could bring in that wouldn't be considered starting caliber based on the guys that are out there now, right? Like, Craig James is out there in a starting capacity. There's no knock on Craig James. Cash those checks. I'm just saying there aren't many people you'd make a trade for that would be like, damn, you're probably not going to start him over Craig James.
I got you. Yeah. I
So
understand what you mean.
I think it's probably like 85%.
Okay.
I mean, if
Is
we'll
that
get
all right?
Jalen-
Is that Mr. You passing the buck on me now? Is that enough of an answer
good enough
for
for
you
me.
to jump in there?
I put a bet on that. It's either if it's not Jalen Ramsey, give me Chris Harris.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, it's a perfect situation for him to come over here.
But
All
even if it's John Harris or Jalen Shander or something like that, chances are these guys are going to be better than what they have now anyway.
I agree.
Watch out for that. Shander.
All right, so one more question from Levi's mom, 82. Just simply, what are 3 key things the Eagles could do to keep this winning streak of one game going?
I would say run the ball consistently. Do not turn the ball over. Keep Carson Wentz upright, healthy, and, get that rhythm going,
Eitan?
Yeah, I mean, you took all the good answers, man.
I try, bro.
Don't turn the ball over like that. There's nothing really more I could do with that. That's pretty much like the biggest barometer. You could have saved that for me. I'm only going to be here 1 week. E-Rock's back next week. Like, you could have saved the good one for me and just danced around. You could have given something like, pressure on the quarterback and other stuff. Let me see. Is there anything
Give me something
else?
generic.
Something generic.
Pressure on the quarterback. There you go.
Get the Jets off third down as much as humanly possible. Okay, keep that Jets defense on the field. So here's something I'd look at. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a 42-3 beating. Not because the Eagles aren't capable of it, because I think the Eagles are going to look at this game like a get-in, get-out. You put up 21, 24, you keep the Jets to 3, maybe 7 points, and you get out of there. We saw that with Seattle last week, taking on the Cardinals in Arizona.
Yeah.
They started running the clock out with 8 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
If the Eagles are up 28-3 in the third quarter, it's going to be a heavy dose of run,
Yes,
and
bleed the clock out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
where you may not see a lot of fireworks in the air.
Okay, I'm all for that.
All for it.
Is that all for the questions?
That's
today?
all for the questions.
All right. Well, I mean, let's talk about the big shout out to Green Legion, who went on that trip to Atlanta.
Yes.
That was a phenomenal
That was an
trip.
awesome time.
If
Really
you guys
awesome
want to
time.
just sit back, relax, let Green Legion do everything for you. They'll book the hotel, they have a tailgate, we'll have a party. I mean, it's all in one, and going to the football game as well.
Yeah.
But if you use the promo code Jawn, you could sit with us, party with us, have a good time in Buffalo. It's going to be a crazy trip. Word is that we're going to throw E-Rock through a table, hopefully break his
Off of
back.
an RV, yeah.
Put
then
him on
Eitan's
IR.
back full time.
But speaking of tailgates, the 4th and Jawn, we'll have our own tailgate.
Yeah, this
the
week.
Jets tailgate. These early games, I kind of hate 1:00 games, but Trox Prime will be there at like 5:30 in the morning, trying to secure the spot. So shout out to Conchi Bakery.
5:30 in the morning.
Tomato pies are
Amazing.
fire.
I mean, I used to live down the street from them.
Conchi
Yeah.
Baker?
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
They're
Yeah.
next level.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
And shout out to Bud Light, man. They've been powering the tailgate forever now. But it's always a good time. But that's all for us.
Yes.
And we will see you guys next week with a W against the Jets. Speak it into existence.